Hello everybody and welcome to Let's Talk Mate, Solent Mind's men's mental health chat. My name is Sam Clark and I'm the digital content officer for Solent Mind. I'm not your host, I'm not at all on this podcast at all, but there has been some technical difficulties right at the start of this podcast where Matthew did cut out for his introduction. So I'm just jumping in to give you a quick introduction that this is indeed Let's Talk Mate, and this episode will be focusing on people in the public eye. So yes, without further ado, please enjoy.
Hello there, my name's Troy Chessman. I'm an actor, a writer. I've done a lot of work in the Southampton, Hampshire area over the years since I graduated. That's me.
Brilliant. Matt.
Hi, I'm Matthew Harrison. I am originally from Portsmouth, from the South Coast, born and bred. I've played in the same band for 13 years, a country band called Hometown Show, but now I perform as a solo artist as well, under the name Somewhere in the Wildwood, and I'm now located up here in the north in Manchester.
Great, thank you. And finally, Stephen.
Thanks, really good to be with you today. I'm Stephen Morgan, born and bred in Portsmouth, background in local government and in the voluntary sector. I'm the Member of Parliament for Portsmouth South, elected for the first time in 2017, and also the Shadow Armed Forces Minister.
Thank you very much. And just to introduce myself, so I'm Matthew Winnington. I'm the service manager for Remind, which is a dementia support service at Solent Mind. And for the purposes of this, I'm also a former city councillor. So the first question I've got, and I'm going to start with you actually, Stephen. So how can people with a visible public profile encourage men to discuss their mental health openly and seek help when needed?
So I think it's really important that those of us in public life do encourage people to talk. It's a really simple thing for people to do, but in times it can be incredibly challenging for people to do so. And certainly those of us in public life that have a bit more sort of scrutiny subject to the things that we sort of make decisions about and the ways that we behave, I think it's really important that as role models we do encourage men in particular to speak up when things are difficult and seek advice.
I think, there's been a lot of progress made, especially over the lockdown period, because, I think people have found themselves suffering with, depression or anxiety and just general kind of stress because, you're locked in and you never quite know what's happening day to day. So I think, that has kind of pushed mental health a lot more to the forefront. And I think people are being incredibly open about it. But we do need to keep that dialogue going because there is still this stigma there that, you've got mental health issues. Like, what does that mean? Like, are you okay? Are you happy day to day? Are you depressed? Are you suicidal? There's all this stigma surrounding it. So I think it's incredibly important that we can be as open as possible to put forth across a better dialogue surrounding mental health and to be able to support ourselves and support each other. So I think it's incredibly important to just kind of be as upfront and open with it as possible. If you have that confronting dialogue, like, yeah, I have this. Here it is. Here's the elephant in the room. There's nowhere to hide from it anymore. You kind of just have to have a conversation about it and discuss it. So, yeah.
Thanks, Troy.
Yeah, I think sort of going off that, I think a lot of people sort of underestimate the power of theatre and the arts that we have. Like we have this platform to start a conversation, to create these characters that address these problems, these issues. And actually we as performers, we are constantly sort of putting ourselves on the line. We're putting ourselves out there. And for me as a performer and somebody that has mental health issues, I am completely transparent about it. If I'm doing a show that talks about mental health issues and if I get followed by someone like on social media or whatnot, like I am completely transparent about it. I will always post things, the website links where people can talk about their mental health. I'm always upfront about it. And I think that's what I want people to do. And that's what I hope my industry will start to do more of, is to stop creating this false image that we're all sort of perfect and we don't have any kind of problems. Actually, like we say, no, this is who we are. We are normal human beings. We have mental health issues. Sometimes we have great days. Sometimes we have bad days. And there are so many of us out there, so for me, it's always about empowering people to just have that conversation, start that conversation, tell someone, talk to someone.
Just leaping off all of your answers there. So, and there's a couple of things I think can come out. So that one of them was about your industries, so to speak, sort of almost needing more of a sort of a corporate, so almost like they need to do something, not just leave it up to individuals. And then the other thing was about just wondering if there was a specific thing that you thought would be you think would be suitable for you to do in your own areas. If there's like if you think there was a particular event that would really help, or if there was something tangible rather than just like on an ad hoc basis. Just really opening up to conversation, really.
Yeah, I think Troy's right, and also what Stephen said earlier on as well. I think being like a musician, actor, politician, all in the public eye, I guess people have this opinion of you that you are on stage, kind of 24/7, and you're ready to go at any moment, and you've got that energy and you've got the enthusiasm to be able to push that forward in whatever job that you're doing. And it must be like, I speak for myself obviously, but Troy and Stephen I'm sure will probably agree that it's hard being on performance and on stage, as it were, all the time, especially like myself being a musician and singing these songs that are incredibly personal and trying to connect with the audience and connect with the fans and things like that, and write these incredibly personal things. It's really draining and it's really difficult, and that it's hard to come off stage afterwards and be like, oh, hi, how you doing? Oh, lovely to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. Oh yeah, great to meet you. Check out this. Yeah, have you listened to that? Have you? It's so draining. And I think there are some great initiatives, especially in music, for mental health, which is happening actually in the South Coast. I really am a big champion of Tonic Music for Mental Health, which is based in Southsea. They were at my first ever solo gig that I performed in sort of 10 years, something like that, and I had them come down with a stand, and I think they're doing really important things, because actually, creativity is a huge benefit to positive mental health, whether it's acting, becoming a character, and kind of putting those issues out there as a character, and kind of leading a different life on stage for a moment, or singing these songs, or whether it's drawing or anything, painting, art, anything like that. I think being creative is a way forward to promote better mental health, and Tonic are definitely doing that. And for me, I think in the music sector, they're doing amazing things. So I can't champion them enough, really.
I'd have to say, sort of going from that as well, I think it's quite a hard thing to pinpoint in this industry specifically, because I think there is so much and so many layers and so many different things that contribute to a person's mental health, and the more I start to think about it, the more it sort of ripples and ripples and ripples. But actually, I think it purely comes down to attitude. I remember I've been in some productions before where I definitely felt like I was a prop in the room. I didn't feel like I was a person who had emotions, who, I would just do this, do that, which in itself is problematic. If, like, especially on the nature of the play, for instance, and what you're doing, there might be a sort of sexual nature to the play, or, you might be asked to do something a bit more intimate, and you're just expected to do it without any sort of any communication or hesitation. You're just expected to just do whatever, like, oh, cry, just cry now, or do whatever you need to cry, or things like that. But what we're doing now, and we're seeing it in my industry, is that we're sort of integrating these new things like intimacy, coordination, and just sort of a new attitude towards like safeguarding actors and performers. We're having a communication. I'm being asked, like, do you feel comfortable doing this? Like, how can I make this as comfortable for you as possible? Like, how can we make this easy for you? And especially when you are playing some characters that might be tackling some huge, issues, and it's not something you can just sort of pretend, and obviously actors work differently. Those different actors work differently, but we are taking a part of ourselves, and we are putting a part of ourselves on the line every time we do it, and every time we step into those shoes. And sometimes it's like, it's just the expectation. You do it and then you walk off stage and that's it. Apparently you just go back to normal and everything's fine. But sometimes sometimes these things do linger with you, and these issues do linger with you, and like there's no sort of safeguarding the actor after that. You know, you finish the show and that's it. You just sort of go on to the next one, and you just deal with everything that you've gone through and whatnot. So I think it is about attitude, and I think these sort of younger sort of emerging artists, their attitude towards it is changing, which is really exciting. And yeah, it makes me very hopeful that actually we're going to be safer, you know, and we're going to be protected, and we're going to thrive in our industry and not be held back by you know, potential crisis or mental health issues, you know, because yeah, we're people being kind. I think that's important. Like, yeah.
Just to really add what colleagues were saying earlier with regards to those of us in public life using our platforms to sort of change the tone and change culture, really. So Matt talked earlier with regards to some of the stigma that may exist around mental health, and I think those of us that are in public life have a real opportunity to reach out to people and also say things can be done differently, and certainly I commit to sort of sharing a bit more of my emotions in it when I have a bad day, because I know other people will relate to that if I sort of say that publicly. But also plenty of us do have things that we can do to bring about change. And Troy mentioned earlier the sort of demand on services at the moment. The pandemic has been incredibly difficult for all of us, and I am worried now the silent pandemic is a crisis in mental health, and we need to make sure we've got resources and services there to help people. That is coming slowly, but we need to make sure that people are signposted to appropriate services and get the help when they need it.
Thanks. And just on sort of from my experience as well, I think one of the things we had at the council that we hadn't had before until recently was a mental health champion, which I was for a couple of years, my last couple of years on the council. And I think even just having that as like you know, as a status within the council means that you can see that focus is there, that it's not just like something that's tangential. And I think that's I think that was a bit of a difference that was made, because I think it can be very, very much, you know, it comes up when it comes up, but if it's always there, so whether it's you know, in a as Troy was saying, you're going to do a production, and perhaps it would be, you know, with every production you'd say, well, who's going to be like the mental health champion for the production, because of course be the person who might be there for whoever doing that and just looking out for people's mental health. And it could of course be anyone. It could be a performer, it could be a member of the backstage crew, it could be the director, who knows. But it's just getting that idea that as you've all said, it can all be really difficult within your industries, because there can be there's a lot of pressure, whether you're touring with a production or with a or with your band, or as a performer, or if you're going on the media, all the you've got demands on your press and or your demands on your day. You're expected to be here, there, and everywhere as an elected representative. So I think it's it's just about getting that. In my perspective, it's just about getting that that it's there, and it's always there, and it's something that you always acknowledge, rather than it being something that comes up.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing to hear that there's obviously things happening in various different sectors and workplaces, and what Troy's saying about making sure that performers kind of have have this guidance of, are they feeling okay, are they doing okay, is this okay, is this something that I want to do. I think that's amazing, and having these kind of various mental health roles in government and media is amazing. I think we can very easily support one another and be able to have the open dialogue. But yeah, Stephen's right. I hope that that we can kind of start seeing a little bit more progress towards having more opportunities open to facilities and therapy and all that kind of stuff, because it's very hard. It is hard because people people are depressed. People do have, severe mental health issues, and it's a struggle sometimes to get to some of these wonderful places that are doing great work, like Mind and Tonic and all these other places that are offering, free therapy and counselling and stuff like that. But the waiting lists are just too long. They're too long. People are struggling. People are out there suicidal, and are waiting 6 months before they can see anyone. And we can signpost people and we can champion it as much as we want, but the reality is we have to do something to make sure that these services are more freely available and quick, because we do have a crisis on our hands massively, especially after the pandemic. Stephen's right. Like, yeah, it's sad. It makes me feel sad thinking about it, because I have people out there that I care about that are struggling as well, and it's like, what do you do? There comes a point where like, what do you do? How do we make this more available? I don't know, but it's something that we definitely need to focus on for sure.
So, just leaping off some of that discussion. So, is it more difficult for men in the public eye to discuss mental health and well-being? So I'm going to come to you, Troy, first this time around.
Yes, I think it has, and I think it's an attitude that's been around for too long, way too long. I think, especially in my industry, again, like this idea, I think when you break it down, I think when you look at things like representation, for instance, stuff like that, like we're always seeing these ideas of male characters and things like that. Like we're always setting this ridiculous sort of precedent that what it is to be masculine, what it is to be a man. And I think it needs to end. Like, it needs to stop. Why are we not seeing these characters who can be a hero but can also have a mental health issue? Like, why are we always associating these things with specific stereotypes and things like that? Like, why is it not changing? I think it is slowly, but again, like, as an actor, I always think to myself, like, I'm always told what part I would play. You can only play this, you can only play that. And so in my head is like, well, like I can't be the hero and play someone that has a mental health issue. I can't. I have to be one or the other. We sort of created these stereotypes that we're just labeling, and as a performer, I think you always want to be sort of seen as being okay, because time is money in my industry. Like, you don't want to be that person. It's like, actually, I don't really feel okay doing this, because the chances are they'll be like, well, there's someone that can do it, that won't question it, or that won't say anything, and you're expected to just sort of stay silent, or deal with it at home, talk to someone else about it, like, just not in the room. And again, I think it's just about changing people's attitudes, because I know loads of male actors, my friends, my colleagues, who put on these brave faces, and they're like, I talk to them afterwards, and they're like, this is hell, this feels like hell. And I'm like, why don't you say something? He's like, well, there's no point, is there? Because they won't hire me again, or like they'll talk to someone and then they won't want to hire me, and it feels like this sort of toxic place where we just don't want to hear about it. It's like, if you have mental health issues, like, that's you, and you keep that to yourself, but don't bring it in the room, because we need to get this show finished or whatnot. And again, I think it starts with one person, just to make a change in that rehearsal room, and it will encourage people, it will empower people to talk, and yeah, that's what I hope will come in the future. Like, I look forward to the day when I stand in a rehearsal room and feel like, actually, I can be as open as I need to be, or I can communicate how I'm feeling, because I'm not going to be judged. I'm not going to be, my reputation will be tarnished because I feel sad, or
Matt.
Yeah, I think sadly we still follow so many of these like horrendous stereotypes. We were expected to fall into a very specific category, men and women. Men are meant to be very strong and tough, and they don't care, and women fall into this horrendous stereotype as well, where they're like crazy things of like seen not heard or all this kind of stuff. Like that stuff still exists, which is crazy. It's like we shouldn't be living like that anymore. There shouldn't be these stereotypes. We should be able to be the people that we want to be, and that we hope we achieve to be in life, and we should be bigging each other up and pushing each other forward. And I think definitely for men there is that stereotype of being tough and being unfazed by things. Myself, I suffer with body dysmorphia after losing a ton of weight. I was sort of like 21, 22 stone, double XL, bullied through the entirety of school and for a lot of my like early life. And I lost all this weight incredibly quickly. And but I'm not meant to care about that, that there is that stereotype of, slap in the stomach and be like, well, it's all bought and paid for, and it's all from drinking beers, and I don't care. But men care how they look. We see all the airbrushed images in magazines and on TV shows, and we care about those things, like, but again, you're not meant to. So it's a problem that again is not really specifically like spoken about too much with men, because I think men are afraid to be like, oh yeah, I do worry about how I look, to be honest. Like, am I looking okay today? Do I look good? And it's incredibly difficult. I think that is the main that stereotype is just it's one that we should really break, because again, I think that breaks down the walls for everything. Once you can talk about one of these things, you can talk about it all. Once we're comfortable as men to be like, yeah, I'm not feeling good, I don't think I look good, I'm worried, have I done this, do I look a specific way? I think once we can break those walls down, then the floodgates really open.
Stephen.
Yeah, just to pick up on a couple of points that others have already made then. I mean, if you look at what sort of business leaders are saying, or Olympians or sports stars, I think you are starting to see people in public life telling their personal stories a lot more. And I think that really helps. I think progress is being made, but there is absolutely much more that needs to be done. And I think social media needs to be reformed. I think there's too much abuse and negativity and hatred on social media. Obviously, a live issue at the moment is with regards to issues around journalists making remarks about people's size, and I think that has a real impact on young people in particular and their sense of self-worth. And I think much more needs to be done, and that's why I support sort of better regulation of social media channels to make sure that people don't see hideous comments on social media that feeds this sort of lack of confidence in oneself. And definitely want to see laws change so that those social media channels are held to account and actions taken.
I'm gonna chip in there. I totally agree with you. And I think so. Not only, and especially in my industry, not only do we have this sort of anxiety about sort of stepping into these characters and stuff like that, but then like what happens afterwards as well when you go home and people have this platform where they can just comment freely about your performance, your weight, what you look like. I've had it in the past, where I've done a show and I get a message on Instagram, I get followers, and I get a message that, and people are completely like, just, there's no filter, and they'll say whatever they feel like without any accountability, and they don't care how I feel about it. They'll tell me I look a certain way, or it's the complete opposite, where like they're incredibly sexualized and I'm objectified, and it's like there's no accountability for it at all. Like, you can report it, but nothing happens, and when I try and complain about it, or if I say something, I always get the same response. It's like, well, you're an actor, you should expect it. I feel like we're setting this precedent, this sort of normal, like we're normalizing this idea that people can just do and say what they want because they're on it, behind a keyboard, behind a screen.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly toxic. And I know, again, so many actors that are affected by this, like people's words are so powerful, and some people can be so unkind, they can get away with it.
I think you're right, and I think we can't forget that people in public life are human beings ultimately, and obviously there's a big debate at the moment in Parliament and in public life with regards to kind of the security and protections of MPs after the tragic murder of Sir David just last week. And we've been talking about the emails and the comments you see on social media. People don't now write a letter, think about what they're saying, stick an envelope on it, then go off and post it. People can post stuff straight away, sometimes from anonymous accounts, and that's quite upsetting for many. And it's not just about making sure that we think about our physical health and our protections, but also making sure people's mental health is supported as well. And that's why I do think we need to see change with regards to regulation of social media channels.
That's the problem. You can't just turn off anymore. You can't. Home is not a safe haven anymore for any of us, just because of the digital age that we're living in. Like, you go to school and you're bullied. Like, oh, at least I'm home. At least I'm in my house, my safe place. Or you come back from work and you're surrounded by the people you love. But sadly, you can't just turn off anymore because the messages are pinging through, like you say, on Twitter or Instagram, or bullying messages on Facebook or something, or you're getting texts or calls. You just can't. You can't seem to escape it anymore, which is, it makes it incredibly unbearable. It really does. I think Stephen's right. Is holding social media platforms, accountable, is an incredibly important thing. Definitely.
And I think it's definitely a case of, certainly from politicians' point of view, if you say anything that especially as a male politician, if you say anything that is shows any kind of perceived weakness, and of course, speaking about any mental health issues you're having, I mean, I had a phase last year, so last summer, where I was, as it happened, I was looking for a job. I was obviously being a counsellor, but I need to get a job as well, and I'd been trying for over a year at that point to try and find one, and it was just I just got really down, and it was really starting to get to me, and I told some of my colleagues privately within my own party, but there was no way I was going to stick it out there and talk about it publicly, because people out there and some political opponents would well have pointed and said weakness, and I was up for election earlier this year, and as it happened, I didn't win my seat, but I knew I was up for election, so I knew that if I said anything about how I was actually really feeling, that would be taken as a sign of weakness, and that people would start to try to either use it against you in a political way, or potentially try to use it, or you would definitely get someone out there who doesn't like you or doesn't like your party, who would troll you and everything, and that may, so you just don't even go there. And I think that's where you get to that stage whereby you don't even feel like you can broach it, as certainly from what Troy was saying there in the acting profession. You don't broach it because literally it's seen as being sort of dynamite. It's seen as being something that can completely derail your entire career, especially because of the male stereotype that you're supposed to, like Troy summed up really well at the start, you're supposed to be really strong and unfazed by things. I think Matt said that, and it's just not real, because we all feel things, and it's difficult to do.
Just on that, Matt, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it falls on all of our shoulders in public life to do something about that. And I think what I would say is, you don't become radioactive if you talk about how you feel. Flip it around to being about, if you're confident enough to talk about how you feel, that's a sign of strength. And actually, I think that there's lots of power in that, around saying that you're actually in touch with how you feel about issues and are confident in talking to others about them. That's a sign of strength and something that should be encouraged.
Absolutely, and I think that's where we need to get to. But it's about having that. It's as you say, Stephen, about changing that approach, that you can have that it seems as being a strength. But at the moment, and especially with this, as has already been said, social media in particular, you can just post. You don't think, you just post, and then it can get really, and even just the smallest thing that you can just have, and even when people make a mistake, so people, and I've known this has happened to a colleague recently. Someone's got completely the wrong end of the stick, and then just basically laid into a colleague of mine on social media, and it's not even true. It's just something that they've got a perception of. They think it's something else, but that's had a real impact on them, because it's like it was such a horrible personal attack, and again, that's a man. So responding to it is like, oh, you sort of have to take it, rather than saying, actually, that's really upset me, and everything there. I'm just gonna wrap up, and so there's just the last question. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So and this sort of comes together with everything we've talked about. So and especially speaking about the media, is there enough honest discussion around mental health in the media and public life?
I think there is enough discussion around it when someone takes their life, sadly. This is the sad thing, like, mental health, number one, can be weaponized, which we've seen, because, oh, you're this, you're that, the other, oh, you're weak, etc. And then sadly, let's face it, mental health is a massive bandwagon as well. When it's locked down, everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to talk about it. We should be looking after ourselves. We should be doing this. We should be doing that. When someone sadly, takes their own life, singers, presenters, actors, oh, isn't it so sad? How come we didn't see it? Why weren't we looking for it? It's a bandwagon. The media jump on it then and want to promote, good mental health and act like they're trying to help. But come on, the next day there's going to be something more important to them that they want to sell newspapers for, or that they want you to tune into their TV show. And it's a bandwagon. But it's not that for people who deal with it every single day of their lives. Your friends, your neighbours, your parents, your brother, your sister, everybody deals with mental health. And I'm sure a lot of people that we know around us have mental health issues. It can't be a bandwagon. We can't jump on it when someone in the public, eye takes their lives or speaks openly about it, because then it's forgotten about a week later. We need to really make sure that it's staying at the forefront of our minds and the forefront of our media and politics and everything. So we can push it forwards and help one another.
Thanks, Stephen.
It's a really good question, Matt. I mean, it's a big issue, isn't it? If you look at statistics that say that 1 in 4 of us experience a mental health challenge in any given year, that's 50,000 people in Portsmouth a year. It's a huge number. I think the media need to be more honest. I think they have a role to play in helping people understand what services are available. We recognise that there are real challenges around access to services at the moment. Demand is going up. It's going to be really challenging. I want to see people seen with at least a month of being referred. There's lots of support out there. It's under pressure, but I do think the media need to tell a more positive story about how people have had support and how they can get further support if they need it.
Thanks. And finally, Troy.
Yeah, sort of following on from that, I totally agree, and I think we have to accept, like, the media, no matter, I think the media will always have its own agenda, and that's been clear from through time, But I think what we can do, moving forward, is about educating people, and why are we relying on the media to tell us how mental health is and what it is and how it should be like? And I feel so incredibly lucky. I work for a theatre company in Southampton called Theatre for Life. We are taking plays into school that address mental health straight at its core, and we're saying to young people, this is what mental health is. This is to take care of yourself. If you recognize any of these things, get help, And I know, as my experience, if I had that when I was younger, my life would be very different now. If I was given those resources as a young person, I think I'd be a very different person now, And I think we need to educate people, and we need to give them the equipment, the empowerment to do it themselves, rather than listening to these outside voices telling them and it's great, if more celebrities and stuff came forward and were honest about their mental health, not through me, not just through newspapers and stuff, but in their own, in their own social media and stuff like that, I think we will see this influx of people being open and honest and coming forward and seeking help. And yeah.
Thanks, Troy, and thanks so much for all your contributions. I certainly agree. I think there is the mental health is, and it's not just about when people have issues. It's just that people's mental health and well-being is always there. And I think if we in public life and the social and in the media were using that as just to talk about that as a constant. Rather than just when things go obviously tragically wrong, then I think that we would be in a much better place. Thank you so much for everyone for your contributions today. It's been fantastic having you all on. So Troy, Matt, and Stephen, I wish you all the best for the rest of the day, and thanks very much for taking part in Let's Talk Mate.